The Tigers are promoting the top pitching prospect in all of baseball, Jackson Jobe. Let's discuss on Fantasy Baseball today in 5. Welcome into FPT in 5 on Tuesday, September 24th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White, and the Tigers are promoting the top pitching prospect in all of baseball, Jackson Jobe. They are clearly going for one of those wild card spots here, and no fantasy value for the rest of the season, but it's just a really cool baseball moment to see a prospect of this caliber getting called up this late in the season. Jackson Jobe expected to pitch out of the bullpen. So, Scott, we get a little bit of a sneak peek, and maybe a sign of things to come in in the opening day rotation next season.
I think that's the biggest takeaway for fantasy is that if they're willing to bring him up to the majors now and make him a part of their postseason plans, the Tigers trending toward being in the postseason, they could potentially not make the postseason, but that's obviously why they're calling him up, is to give their bullpen a shot in the arm. So much of their rotation for the entire second half, as well as the Tigers have played, so much of the rotation is made up of not true starting pitchers. They've used a lot of openers. They've used a lot of multi-inning guys. And Jackson Jobe, even though he'll technically be used in relief, I imagine he'll become one of those multi-inning guys. So we'll see him make an appearance or two. If they go to the postseason, maybe he'll get to make a few more appearances. But the biggest takeaway, I think, is just that by entrusting Jackson Jobe with this, the Tigers are revealing that he'll very much be in the rotation mix next spring. And that is something to get excited about. And because they're using Jackson Jobe in relief, he'll be RP eligible. Potential spark for points leagues. And it's looking like there won't be many worth getting excited about next year. So Jackson Jobe will definitely be one, as you said, best pitching prospect in baseball. He's never accumulated a lot of innings in the minors, has had some injuries along the way, but the ERA has always been good. Spent most of this year at AA, a 1.89 ERA. Throws hard, has a slider that gets 3,000 RPM, which you don't see a lot on that pitch. He has had some strange control issues this year we hadn't seen pop up for Jackson Jobe before. His swinging strike rate at AA too, for having a 1.89 ERA, was only 11%, which you'd expect to be much higher for a prospect of his caliber. So there are things you could nitpick here with Jackson Jobe, but there's a lot to like to. And if he dominates in the role the Tigers give him, like I said, plenty of enthusiasm for Jackson Jobe going into next year.
And on CBS, Jackson Jobe is 32% rostered. Again, you don't need to add him for this season, but if you play in a keeper league and waivers are still open, you might want to take a shot, add Jackson Jobe, and again, maybe he has a chance to be in the Tigers opening day rotation in 2025. Let's talk about Julio Rodriguez, Scott, who is finishing strong. 3 for 5 with a double, a steal, and 2 RBI here on Monday. Last 24 games, he is batting .374, 8 home runs, 6 steals, and OPS over 1,000. And just like that, he's kind of playing his way back into first round discussion for next season.
Yeah, huge September. And before the high ankle sprain, Julio Rodriguez was having a huge July. So it stands to reason that if he didn't miss that time with that injury, his season may have played out much like the previous two, where he gets in a big hole early on and then just goes crazy to finish out the season, ends up with first round caliber numbers. But that is kind of the downside to drafting Julio Rodriguez in round one. If this September is tempting you into doing that again, I don't think it's crazy, but we can only tolerate those bad starts to the season. 3 years in a row now, it's played out this way for Julio Rodriguez. We can only tolerate that big hole he digs himself into early on because we're expecting a huge return the rest of the way. And if he misses any time, we don't get that full return. And Julio Rodriguez ends up being a disappointment on the level of this year. It doesn't mean just because his first 3 years have played out this way, where he's struggles for a couple months and then goes crazy, that it'll always be so. We hope someday Julio Rodriguez will find consistency from beginning to end. But given that it's been back to back years to start his career, it's kind of natural to assume a slow start for Julio Rodriguez next year too. So I think I'm mostly just going to want to take a more cautious approach with him, even though he clearly has first round upside. I think I'd like to. I think I want a discount for Rodriguez of some kind next year. It may only be early round 2, but I think that's the point where I'll wait to draft him.
All right. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.